Klyptonians, this is a Mighty Throw Barbarian, like you have never seen it before. I took the traditional throw, spiced it up a little bit, and we're hitting some massive numbers. This is not just a throw build. This is a weapon swap build. So a lot of what you're about to see relies on me swapping weapons. Check out this Uber Lilith kill. It is insane. So for this fight here, we want to try and time this just right if we want to one-phase her. It's a tricky timing. But if you get the timing just right, it goes down. So all you got to do in this phase here is the exact same thing. You can start pre-casting a little bit early in order to get your guaranteed overpowers to proc early. So normally as soon as she pops out about here, you just start pre-casting your hammers so that they'll land on her right when she swans. And then you just come over into the corner here. As soon as her life goes when she cuts the platform, you run along the top. Run all the way along the edge. I always stay right along the very edge. Except for here, cut in front of this blood blister here. Wait till she cuts the platform again, and then run behind the blood blister. Make sure you have at least 155% movement speed or more. It makes the fight a lot easier. Circle around the very top of that blood blister. You can kind of wait it out just a little bit with the movement speed that I have. Once she flies up, you want to run across the platform after she cuts it. Then you come around. I normally pop something that makes me unstoppable right here. And then when she lands, you just go and you just take her out. That is the Whirlwind Mighty Throw Barbarian on the PTR doing Uber Lilith. This fight is a ton of fun, especially with this build. I'm going to go over this build. What we're going to be doing for this build. This is actually a weapon swap build. So everything that I'm doing is built around swapping weapons to generate fury and also proc overpower. So we're going to start. I'm going to go over the skill tree real quick. So what we just did lunging strike just to open up your core skills. Because we're going to be overpowering so often, we took 1 point into pressure point to unlock the new passive, which is Warpath. 3 points here so that you get 12% increased damage after overpowering. We overpower all the time. If you see all those orange numbers, it's massive. That unlocks your next board. 3 points into Opposing Presence. This is pretty standard. We went into 3 points into Martial Vigor for the damage reduction. We only went into Rallying Cry for the Unstoppable. You're going to do your Outburst and then your Tough as Nails combination. 1 point into Challenging Shout. I actually probably should squeeze some points out to get Enhanced Challenging Shout somewhere. Warcry, all the way down through Power Warcry. 3 points in the Raid Leader for some additional passive healing. This one is probably where I could steal some points out of to move around for a little bit more damage if we needed to, and some damage reduction. Booming Voice to increase the duration of your skills. We did 2 points into Aggressive Resistance because I needed some points, but I'll probably move some points around later on to test this out. Prolific Fury. This is going to give us our generation. As we're swapping weapons, we're generating Fury based on our max Fury. So this generates additional Fury on top of that. 2 points in the Pit Fighter. 3 points into Slaying Strikes for some additional damage when monsters are under injured, which is 35% or lower. 1 point into Exposed Vulnerability. Now this is what's going to cause your weapon mastery abilities to generate vulnerable damage. We are only going to be spamming weapon mastery pretty much all the time. So this is going to give us all of the vulnerable damage that we need. We don't need anything else here. We're going to be using our weapon mastery skill as Mighty Throw. This is the brand new Barbarian ability, and I love it. It is a ton of fun. You're going to max out your ranks here. You're going to go into Enhanced Mighty Throw. This is going to be your weapons are thrown out. You gain 25% increased attack speed. Then we have Warrior's Mighty Throw. When it lands and does impact, it's 200% increased damage, and it also stuns. Everything it hits in a radius stuns. It does a lot of stagger to bosses, so this is really great here. 1 point into Thick Skin. 3 points into Counteroffensive. We're going to generate Fortify through our weapon mastery skills using Irrepressible. This is one of the new passives also. Your weapon mastery skills are going to fortify you for 10% of your maximum life. We're going to be spamming our weapon mastery skills. So this means we're always going to be fortified, so we're always going to take advantage of counteroffensive. That 12% increased damage when you're above your 50% of your fortify of your maximum life. We're using a two-handed version here, not the dual wield version. So we're going to be running 3 points into heavy-handed. We're going to be running 3 points into brute force for that increased overpower damage, so it's multiplicative. We're also going to be running wallop here. This is going to generate 15% increased damage to stunned or vulnerable enemies, and we're going to be using our two-handed mace as your selection for your weapon here. We're going to be running Invigorating Fury because we're going to spend Fury incredibly fast. This is because of our gear, and we'll get there in just a second. Wrath of the Berserker, you now can max out your ultimate skills. So your cooldown is actually only 44, and when you take out a point, it goes up. So you're just going to reduce the cooldown of your ultimate skills by putting more points into it. All the way down through Supreme Wrath of the Berserker. And then we're going to do Unconstrained here. This was changed a little bit right here. Now, the Berserking bonus, the damage is the same. It's still 60%. But while you're below 65% life, you're always going to be Berserking, and you have 25% damage reduction. Somewhere in this season, I'm sure we're going to find a low life build where we're always going to be just running right below that 65% for that extra damage reduction. Paragon boards, these look so much different this season. For the starter board, we're running Ire. This is pretty much where we're going to get all of the damage while berserking from. We don't need to temper it anywhere. If you see, I'm at 280. In order to max out your damage while berserking bonus in the Blood Rage board, you only need 300. I'm only 20 off here. I put every point of strength in that you can to max this out. When your glyphs hit level 46 this time, now it changes that you get an additional legendary skill on the bottom. For your Ire glyph, you're going to gain 19.4% increased damage to close, and that is a multiplicative number. Blizzard stated that all of the new legendary glyphs are going to have multiplicative numbers on the bottom. The next board is going to be Blood Rage. As you can see, because we're running that Ire glyph, we are capped out. I don't have to have any tempers into damage while berserking. Inside of that board, I'm running Crusher. This is going to give us a 20x increased overpower damage. It's going to give us damage with maces, which is what we're using. And it's also going to give us 22.3% increase to stunned targets. If you remember, Mighty Throw lands and then stuns immediately for 2 seconds. The stun is up there for a very long time. The next board is Weapon Master. This is what makes this entire build work. Without this, it does not work. Every time that we swap weapons, we're going to get 8% of our maximum fury. Now, I actually specifically took a Paragon board that is going to give us more max fury, so that 8% is increased enough to cover the cost of your Hammer of the Ancients. Of your Mighty Throw. Hammer of the Ancients was old. This is new. In the board, we're going to be running Might. This is going to give us damage to elites. It's also going to give us 300 right now, and I'm not even done yet, 385% increased bonus to all of your magic nodes. As this levels up, you gain more and more. So that means that this is 38% damage instead of what would normally be 8%. So it goes up tremendously when you level up these glyphs. We're also going to be running 21% increased damage to healthy, and then you also deal 8% increased damage with a two-handed weapon, which is what we're going to be running. In your next board, this is going to be the Warbringer board. You saw in the skill tree that we get our Fortify from casting your weapon mastery skill, so we don't need this node. We do need the maximum fury nodes in this board here, so that's the reason that we selected this board. All of these max fury nodes are very important to this build. This board is we're going to be running Wrath, 585% critical strike damage. We haven't even finished maxing out this glyph. This is going to go way up. This is going to give us more fury as we critically strike. Because we're using Whirlwind and Mighty Throw, Mighty Throw has this pulse that does damage periodically as it goes, and the more hammers you have out, the more it does, and then Whirlwind hits constantly. This is a huge fury generator, and we absolutely need as much as we can. This also is going to give us increased physical damage, 15.4%. Final board, going to be Decimator. We are always making enemies vulnerable. We're using Exposed Vulnerability. That gives our weapon mastery skills guaranteed chance to make enemies vulnerable. We're going to always have vulnerable enemies. We're going to be always overpowering. So this will give us a 20% increase to damage here. Inside of this board, we're going to be running Dominate. This is because we are going to be running an overpower build. This is going to give us just straight additive damage to overpower, which is quite a bit. And then also, is that every 20 seconds, our next attack is going to overpower. And then we're going to get 22% increased multiplicative overpower damage. And that's going to keep on going up as we level up this glyph. So that's the Paragon board. For the gear, I'm running the Crown of Lucian. We're running this very similar to the setup that we ran in the current season, where we're running the Deathblow build, where we want to be spending a lot of Fury. This is going to increase the cost of Mighty Throw, which right now is 35 times 5. That's a lot of Fury that we're going to be spending. We need to make up a lot of Fury every time that we swap weapons. For the chest piece, we're going to be running Tyrael's Might. There are a couple ways work around the resistance in when you're running in tier 4, but this is almost necessary. Without these resistances from Tyrael's Might, it is very, very hard to do. Plus, it's a great source of damage reduction here. The gloves. This is where all of the overpower comes from. There's a couple nodes like your Bonebreaker board and your Dominate glyph that is also going to give you guaranteed overpower, but every time we swap weapons, which we're going to swap very quickly, every 8 swaps, you get a guaranteed overpower, and it also gives you 35% increased overpower damage. Affixes here, I'm on the fence. I actually think that I want to run Critical Strike chance, attack speed, and probably strength here. So it's probably what I would want to run optimally. I just haven't found any ancestral gear yet for it. And then for the tempers, I wanted to run critical strike damage. I didn't get my rolls. And then I also wanted to run Mighty Throw's pulse size. So that is increasing when it hits, Mighty Throw hits the ground, increases the size of the AoE that it does. For the pants, we're running to Bolt's Will. That maximum resource is awesome, an additional source of damage reduction, and we specifically have several ways to make ourselves unstoppable to give us that increased damage from your aspect on this here. So if you can get those rolls into the damage reduction, that's perfect. You don't need the resources to be rolled in for the mass working crit because we have enough as it is. The boots, we're running Metamorphosis. This is also very key. Metamorphosis makes you unstoppable. So if you get frozen, knocked back, whatever it is now in the new season, you can evade out of it and it will make you unstoppable. It will also activate your To Bolt's Will. For the affixes here, having that Fury per second feels almost necessary. It is amazing. I'm telling you, that is probably what is absolutely key. Fury per second, ranks to armor, and then movement speed. There may be, when you get all of your glyphs leveled up, you may not need that armor roll. The more strength of whatever it is that you get, the less armor you need, so that might not be necessary. For the tempers here, I didn't want movement speed, but again, ancestral gear is hard to come by, which is perfectly fine. I love it like that. It has been a really great change, but I needed to get movement speed here for the tempers and then Mighty Throw pulse size. For the bludgeoning weapon, we're going to be running Herculean Spectacle. This is the brand new aspect for your Mighty Throw. It's going to give you 70% increased damage. It also hurls another 2 weapons. This is huge. Affixes here, this is exactly what I wanted. Critical strike damage, max life strength, and then for the tempers, critical strike damage, and then Mighty Throw hits twice. I want triple in this. If you can get a triple in that Mighty Throw to hit twice between this weapon and then your first dual wield weapon, this is where you can get up to almost 100% for your hammer to hit twice. For this one, I'm running elements here. This one is really where I have some room to play. Depends on your play style. You can run accelerating, you can run intercom, you can run elements. It really just depends on what you want to play. Or affixes here, you can run max life, strength, and critical strike damage, which is what I wanted to run. I'll probably just reroll for the strength here. Tempers, critical strike damage, and then the mighty throw, chance to hit twice. This is what I wanted to get the triple in also, but I just haven't rerolled enough to get it there yet. This is super important to the build. The build does not work without it, 100%. You cannot run a mighty throw build like this without this blade. The third blade, what it does, it takes your weapon mastery skill, which is mighty throw, and is now a weapon mastery and a core skill. It removes the cooldown and it gives it a fury cost. Generally, this has charges and it is free cast. There is no cost. Now it has a fury cost. You can spam it as many times as you want as long as you have enough fury for it. So the aspect is the most important part of this. For masterworking crits, if you have something that is legendary or is ancestral, strength is the way to go. Grandfather is definitely going to be your number one for this build. If you look at the critical strike damage here that we're running 5,100. This is going to take all of the critical strike damage that we have, double that. So this is very important. All really you need for this build is damage. Even though it is additive damage, you still can put all of your masterworking crits into that damage. For the Ring of Starless Sky, you really can't go wrong with this. Critical strike chance is pretty much life. Core skills is a great roll option also because it's a big damage modifier, but if you're not critting, then you're not going to take advantage of the overpower crits. So you need critical strike chance. For the Ring, we're running Anger Management. This is going to make sure that we maintain our Fury generation from your Prolific Fury, and it also is going to make sure that we're berserking all the time. That's going to make sure that we're taking advantage of Unconstrained. For your affixes here, same thing pretty much as the gloves. Attack speed, critical strike chance, and then critical strike damage probably over strength would actually be best here. So attack speed, crit chance, critical strike damage. The resource generation probably isn't necessary anymore now that I have enough fury. So that one will probably reroll, and then critical strike damage as your 2 tempers. Banished Lord's Talisman is going to be your amulet. The GA, either core skills or attack speed are going to be your best ones. But the aspect is really the most important part. When you spend 275 primary resources, which is Fury, your next core skill is guaranteed to overpower. Your critical strikes that overpower deal a 56% increased damage. We're going to be spending 5 times the normal resources that we would using the Crown of Lucian. So your Banished Lord's Talisman is going to proc all the time. This is why we're running the Crown of Lucian with this over something like Harlequin's Crest. This is going to be your best option here. And you're just using this for the cooldown reduction and the aspect. So for the expertise, you're going to be running 2-handed expertise for your axe. You don't have to be using an axe in order to take advantage of this. You just get this here. For your gems, they changed around the way that rubies work. This now gives you strength. So you can have 2 in each of your slots now. That's 900 strength total. It's massive. We're running 2 armor gems, and I'm still under my armor cap. You can get that with incense if you absolutely need to, or as we progress through the Paragon board, I can change some nodes around and add additional strength. Strength equals armor. And then in order to hit my 85, you have to have this diamond in there. If I take the diamond out, we don't have it anymore. For my rune words, which is super fun, I'm deciding what to do still. Currently, we're running Puck Vex. What this does is as we spend maximum resources, which remember, I'm spending a ton of resources here because we're using this, we're going to gain +3 to all skills for 5 seconds. You have to spend a lot of resources, which is why I'm not sure about this one yet. In your one-handed weapons, we're going to be running your critical strike damage from your dexterity gems. Thank you to Sunny for the follow. And then for your other rune words, I'm running Yol Yam. This is going to be every time that we cast a skill. So after I cast 10 skills with cooldowns, we're going to cast Petrify. What this does is it stuns enemies, and it also increases the critical strike damage against them. So that's really how this build works. Let me go into the training grounds, and I'll show you how to run the gameplay for it. It's fun. Okay, let me go over the gameplay real quick for how this works. I run this on a controller. There are a couple setups that you can do for a mouse and keyboard to get this to work. The PTR resets your keybinds every single time that you exit and then go back in. So I'm going to just keep on rolling it on a controller so that it makes it a little easier. I don't have to constantly reset everything. What the premise of this build is that you go from Whirlwind to Mighty Hammer, and you have a bludgeoning weapon selected for your Mighty Hammer throw because we're running all of that stuff that requires a bludgeoning weapon. And then when you swap to Whirlwind, we now switch to our dual wield weapons. Those weapon swaps give you guaranteed overpower and then Fury generation. We don't actually need to be hitting anything in order to maintain Fury because of the weapon swap. So how this is going to work is you're going to use Whirlwind and then you're going to use Mighty Throw. You don't even need to be anywhere near the target, and it just throws it right at the target here. So if you look at my Fury stays at full every time I swap. If I was to just hold Mighty Throw, my Fury goes away right away. So it's really important that we're swapping back and forth. If I was just to hold down Whirlwind, it wouldn't do the same thing, it wouldn't work. But as soon as I can get those weapon swaps in, my Fury goes all the way back up. So now as you pop your cooldowns, when you have those chains above your head here, that means you're unstoppable. When you're unstoppable, that's taking advantage of Tibolt's Will. That's giving you that additional 16% up to 20% increased damage. It's also restoring 50 of your primary resource. We're running Metamorphosis. Every time that you Metamorphosis, you become unstoppable as well. So you have Rallying Cry, Wrath of the Berserker, and then your Evade that's going to give you unstoppable. Unfortunately, I have the wrong implicit on my boots. I need to be running either attacks, reduce the evade cooldown, or charges so that I can constantly evade and not just wait for the cooldown to come up. Because Metamorphosis increases the cooldown of your evade by 5 seconds. If you have one of the other two, preferably attacks, then you will always have this up, and then you can always maintain your unstoppable. The way that your rune words work, these are your rune words here. So every time that I cast a skill that has a cooldown, so I'm going to cast Rallying Cry, if you watch this little bar, it's going to move up. So every single time that you satisfy one of the requirements of those rune words, you gain that right here. So as I get closer and closer, I know that when my Petrify goes off, I'm going to get increased critical strike damage and a bunch of stun, which I do more damage to stun, and then I get more damage for critical strike damage. So when my Petrify goes off, it's going to be a huge boost. So if I'm going to a boss and I know that this is almost up and I'm waiting for my Wrath of the Berserker to come up, I will wait a little bit longer before I pop any of my cooldowns, unless I need it, so that I can time my Petrify to go. That's how you're going to build your rune words in. What's cool about the training grounds is that you can come right to the training ground jeweler here and you can unsocket all of your runes and put new ones in and test them out inside the training grounds. This was a really, really smart change that they did and a really great one. So that's pretty much the build in a nutshell. If you guys have any questions or if you want to know anything about the build, let me know in the comments of the video. This thing is awesome. It reminds me a lot of AOZ, except it has a range to it, which is a lot of fun. If you liked this video or found it useful at all, don't forget to share it with your friends. I'm live on YouTube and Twitch every night. Stop by Theorycraft with me, say hi, catch you on the clip side.